Hello students, Tim back here from Lessons on the Web once again today, and today we have a special guide on fingering and where to use those fingers given a certain pattern. And specifically with fingering, we are taking a look at scale patterns. We're also going to take a look at arpeggio patterns, and then we're going to take a look at the Alberti bass, which is that left-hand pattern, how to do that. We're going to talk about trills and how to properly do the fingering for those, and lastly we're going to talk about chords. Okay, the first thing we're talking about today are scale patterns. And the first tip I have for you with scale patterns is whenever you have a passage in a piece of music that is an entire scale or portion of a scale, you want to use the fingering for that scale. So if we scroll down to the bottom of the page here, you can see that we have a scale pattern right away. Now, how do I know that that is a scale pattern? Well, you can see that we're talking about this measure here being as large as possible. The last two measures of this line here. So right away you can see there's a scale pattern. Now obviously it's not, a lot of times when you see scale patterns they're not going to be in the exact order of the scale, but whenever you have portions of a scale or an entire scale, you should use the same exact fingering of the scale you're talking about. So the first thing you need to do is figure out what scale you're talking about. So if we have four flats, generally it's either going to be an A flat major scale or an F minor scale. So let's take a look and see if we can figure it out. And actually I would use the fingering for the A flat major scale, because if you come down here you go D, F, E flat, D, C, and then from here on it's all the same notes of the A flat major scale. And as you can see, they give us the fingering a little bit along the way so we can check and make sure. So if you know the A flat major scale, so the other tip I have for you is learn your major scales to get this portion of it, but the fingering is 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So when I come down here at this point I have 3 2 1 4 3 2 1. So it's the same thing, and as you can see even here we have a 3 on an E flat here. That's in the last measure. And it matches up with the scale fingering perfectly. So if I use the scale fingering, it works out just perfect. If I don't know my scale, it makes it way harder to figure out what that passage is. So obviously if you had a passage, say, that had a C major scale in it, you want to use the same fingering used for the C major scale. That's one of the main reasons we learn our scales, other than to kind of map out where the notes are in the key. It's also a good tool for fingering and to use as a reference. So use your scales, also as a tool for fingering as well. Now we're going to talk about number 2, the finger pattern number 2, arpeggio patterns. Now the tip I have for you, like with the scale pattern, is you want to use the chords arpeggios fingering. So what do I mean by that? So if you have an F major arpeggio in the song, you want to use the same fingering. I'll show you on the piano here in a second. The same fingering you would for an F major arpeggio, which would be 1 3 5. However, if you have a 2 octave F major arpeggio, actually I should just show you this now here. 2 octave F major arpeggio is once you get to the top of the arpeggio, you need to, I would use the fingers 1 2 3, so then you can hit the next octave 1 2 3 5. So the fingering will change slightly depending on whether you're doing a 1 octave or 2 octave. But either way, whichever one you learn for that chord in the arpeggio, you want to use the same fingering when you see that chord's arpeggio in a piece. And I'll show you exactly what I mean here in a minute. But in this piece, as you will find, there are alternative fingerings listed, and I have a hunch that's because some of the notes need to be accented, so they use this fingering to, just naturally give more power to the notes. So as you can see from the opening line here, they have an F minor arpeggio, but they start on C, the 5th, so it's actually an F minor arpeggio in second inversion. Now you can use the same fingering you use for an F major arpeggio, which for me would be to start on 3, cross over with 1, and have 2 3 1 3, or maybe 4 there like they have works better, because you have to hit the notes after. Always be aware of the notes you have to hit after the pattern as well. Make sure that your fingering lines up well. As you can see though, even though my fingering works perfect, they have a different fingering. They actually start with 1. They have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, which I think works great. So another tip for you, a mini tip, is that often they will use a different fingering than the, not often, but sometimes they'll use a different fingering than the arpeggio or scale like I told you. And sometimes they have a reason behind that. Sometimes the editor will change the fingering for it because they feel like it works better. I would generally go with what they have. But if you feel like the scale, if there's nothing written, use the scale or arpeggio or whatever we're talking about, that fingering. But if they have it written in, I would use that fingering unless it's uncomfortable. Then just fall back on the normal scale or arpeggio fingering. I think they picked this because you have to accent these first notes, and your strongest fingers are fingers 1, 2, and 3. So that's why I think they chose to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You can get more power out of those, which is what they were going for. If you use my fingering, I mean, it works out okay, or the arpeggio's fingering, not necessarily even mine. It works out good, but I think you can get a little more power out of that. So a lot of times they do have a reason for changing up the fingering on either the arpeggio or the scale or whatever you're talking about. So let's move on to part number 3. Okay, so for number 3, we're talking about the Alberti bass. An Alberti bass is really a pattern you can have with your left hand. Let me show you what that's like here in a second. Oh, there we go. So basically, it's a left-hand pattern where you play an arpeggio, which is a 3-note chord. You just play the notes separately, except you play the bottom note, top note, middle, top, and it just repeats that over and over again. That's called an Alberti bass. And whenever you have that, which happens a lot in classical music, by the way, you generally want to be using the fingers 1, 3, 5, 3. Now, if you have to reach any notes out of there, you may have to use 5, 2, 3, 2, so you can maybe hit something with your thumb. So you can use alternative fingering sometimes if it frees up a fingering. The number 1 tip I have concerning fingering for you is that you never want to run out of fingers. If you get to the end of a line of a scale and you need to continue and you don't have any more fingers to continue, well, you're going to run into a lot of trouble. So that's one thing you always want to abide by. Let's take a look and see if we can find some Alberti bass in this piece now. Here we have found our Alberti bass in the second measure here on the top line we have here focused. So we basically have A flat, F, C, F. So that's an F minor arpeggio, first inversion. You have bottom, top, middle, top. And I'm going to be using fingers 5, 3, 1, 3. Pretty straightforward. I mean, not really a whole lot much more to that explanation than that. Let's talk about the next one. You have a few options when doing trills, but my teacher always told me the best fingering in most cases is to alternate between fingers 3 and 1. If you don't know, trill is alternating between one note and another very quickly in rapid succession. So if you had D and you had a trill over it, you'd alternate between D and the note above it. And my piano teachers always told me to use fingers 1 and 3 is the best, but I always like to cheat and use 3 and 2. I can get a little more clarity out of 1 and 3 because with 1 and 3 you can kind of rotate your wrist a bit and it gives you a little bit more control. Now it does take a lot to get used to this because trills, which I'll have to make a lesson on all and of its own, are very hard to pull off, not necessarily alternating between one and the note very slowly, but to play them in time and in the context of a piece, it takes a lot of getting used to, and it's actually a little bit different for every piece I find. The technique, slightly different. All right, let's take a look at our sonata and see if we can find a trill. So here we have a trill in this next to last measure, designated by the TR there, and it says it has a D right there. I just realized I can circle it basically with the cursor. You can see very lightly that's where the trill is, where we're talking about. So you're going to alternate between D and the note above D, which happens to be E. Let me check the key signature in this section. Okay, so if the next note up is actually a flat in the scale, the note above it has to be a flat too. But when you get to the trill, you want to alternate between 1 and 3. If the trill is written on the D, remember you're going to start playing the D and alternate between the next scale note above, which is the E flat, and you just want to do that in the timing of the piece. And that's how it's done. Like I said, you can cheat a little bit and use fingers 2 and 3 if that feels more comfortable. However, I do find that if you give 1 and 3 a chance, that it sounds a lot better. The left hand goes the same way. You want 1 and 3 is the optimal way to do them. Sometimes you have to do them on different fingers, but in most cases you'll be able to do them with fingers 1 and 3. And I surmise that's because that's where the strong part, the meaty part of your hand is, where all the muscles are. So it makes sense to do that. And also you can rotate your wrist using 1 and 3. Okay, so talking about chords, root position, like I said, you want to use 5-3-1 with left hand, 1-3-5 with right hand. First inversion, you want to use 5-3-1 with the left hand. Right hand, you can use 1-3-5 like before, but you can also use 1-2-5. So I thought I should mention that. Second inversion, you have 5-2-1 with your left hand and 1-3-5 with your right hand. So generally, that's you want to stick to whatever inversion you're in. You want to stick to that fingering. Some of the chords that flats in them, you might have to use a slightly different fingering, but that's generally what you should stick to. Let's take a look at the piece and see if we can find some chords to play. Okay, here we have some chords in this measure with the left hand. By the way, this is written in treble clef, double treble clef here. So you have D, F, B flat, and that is a first inversion chord. So with your left hand, it would be 5-3-1, just like we talked about. So as you can see, they match up. If it was a second inversion chord, it would be 5-2-1, but in this case, 5-3-1. Let's find another one. If we scroll down over here, we have a bunch of chords here. So the measure after the treble clef, you just have, a stack of thirds there, but then you have a root position C minor triad, which I believe with the key signature. So you want to use 5-3-1. So as I said, here's a first inversion G minor chord. You want to stick to the fingering for a first inversion G minor chord. So whatever you learn for your scales, your arpeggios, your chords, you want to make sure you're consistent for the most part in using that fingering in an actual piece. Hopak Trim says Pinterest is a very good place to find scales and arpeggios by notes and tabs. Very good tip. Okay. Oh, let's find let me see if I can find an extended chord. It might be hard in this piece here. So as you can see in this first measure, right over here, if you can see the cursor circling that note there. Oh, I can't highlight it. But anyway, you have a 4-note chord. You have E natural, G, C, E natural. Like I said, use what makes sense. The original fingering I came up with this was 1, 2, 3, 5. I found that was uncomfortable because it has a huge split, as you can see in my hand. So if I move that over and play 1, 2, 5, or 1, 2, 4, 5, it makes more sense and feels better. So that's why I said with extended chords or chords with more than 3 notes, whether it's a doubled note or an extended chord, use a fingering that makes sense for your hand. You generally want to avoid huge gaps in your hand where your hand is spreading apart, and if you're ever hurting your hand, obviously you want to change what you are doing. Okay, so that does it for the main part of the lesson. I'm going to change over to the chat now. Let me see here. Fuddy Duddy says, why do they use the treble clef twice on top and bottom instead of the bass clef? Well, in that case, when notes in both hands move really high up the keyboard, so they don't have to write a lot of ledger lines for one of the clefs, they'll write double treble clef if both hands play up the keyboard, past the middle part of the keyboard about. Now, if both hands are playing lower than the middle of the keyboard, then here we go. If both hands are playing down here, then they'll be writing double bass clef, just so they don't have to write so many ledger lines for the right hand, which are hard to read. So sometimes they do that for that case. That's a good question. Let's see. I found, okay, Fuddy Duddy is actually the one that found it on Pinterest. You both have, Hopak Trim and Fuddy Duddy both have very similar, like, what are those things called? Like icons. Okay, I definitely need new batteries for this keyboard because this is what I'm trying to remotely control everything from, and it's not working out too good, as you can see. Okay, here we are, back again. Okay, so how many ledger lines should a beginner learn? That's a great question from the real Winslet fan. So I would say 3. I would learn up to 3 ledger lines above, 3 ledger lines below. By the way, I have a ledger lines lesson coming out on Sunday. It's going to be a guide that we made that I pieced together based on some live streams that we had around the topic of ledger lines. So you really want to check that out because I give you some tips on mastering up to 3 ledger lines, both above the staff and below the staff. That's about as far as you need to go. You can do 4 if you want. 5 is really overkill. Generally, songs will not do more than 3, so 3 is what you should shoot for. Great question as well. Okay, let me bring up our live stream here so I can see what we are doing. So feel free to leave a question. So now we're doing the Q&A portion. And if you have a comment or question, leave it in the live stream, and I will answer them now. So let me find out what's going on here. Oops. Okay, the Real Winslet fan says, thanks. You're very, very welcome. All right, any other questions about fingering and where to use the proper fingering? If not, I'm going to kind of show you some things that I've added to the website here, which I think are pretty interesting. So let me. Okay, so one thing I really want to tell you about, if you don't know already, over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com, links in the description, I have a bunch of courses that I made designed to help you learn more about piano and music, and they cover a lot of topics I haven't covered on the YouTube channel. It has the same types of videos you can expect from the YouTube channel, so if you like these, you'll like this on the website, but it also includes printable sheet music examples, real songs to play, online activities, and assignments to enhance your learning. So it's basically the lessons. I mean, they're on different topics than what we cover on the YouTube channel. They cover the same, like, so if you're a beginner, they cover all the beginner stuff like the YouTube channel does if you want that review. So it's good if you're a very beginner, but it also covers a lot more advanced stuff as well. So if you're looking to either review the beginning topics or learn some new ones, you definitely want to head over there. But they have the same kinds of lessons we have on the channel, but along with a lot more to help you learn. So go over there and check it out. If you use the code YouTube, you can get 15% off any order. We also have some course packages, so you can buy a few courses at a time in a package and pay a bit less. I recommend the beginner's pack for those of us who, are just starting out because it has the Introduction to Piano and Music course, Learn to Read Music course, Playing the Piano Level 1 and Music Theory Level 1 course. These are the core courses I feel like you really need to become a beginner piano player. So I've lumped them together there. And then you can also use the code, like I said, YouTube for 15% off. Now let me show you something new I added. I want to show you this. So if you click on the courses tab up top, music courses, and then the course information thing that comes down, click on that. And this is a new page I made that actually kind of gives you an inside look on what you can expect from these courses. An overview of what's inside. I have a video where I go through the whole thing of a course, what you can expect. Some questions you may be wondering about how long the courses are, what's included in each unit, what you can expect from each course, and directions on music study and how the courses are broken up for beginners, intermediate students, and advanced students. So I highly recommend you check that out. And also, you'll also be helping the channel as well, because the more the more resources I have to spend on the channel, the more I will spend on the channel. I really want to take the YouTube channel and the website, as far as they can go, reach as many piano students around the world. It's really It's really something to hear from people from thousands, hundreds and thousands of miles away, not hundreds of thousands of miles away, but, all the way across the globe where they were able to learn piano from my lesson. So I think that's so cool. And I really want to take it, to the next level. So if you decide to get these courses, not only will you learn more about piano music, but, you'll also be helping out the channel and helping other people learn as well. So okay, so T Lazi says, I tried to open your site, but it says error. Okay, let me check the. Did you try the link in the description? Yeah, okay. The link in the description is good to go. So that is working. You should be okay. I mean, it always failed connecting to your website, so I never have had that problem with anybody else. If you want to give me some more details on, are you clicking on a link? Or are you putting it in the URL? Maybe, are you using PC, Mac, Android, or anything else? That's kind of strange. And also, a great thing to bring up is if you're in a foreign country and that country has some kinds of blocks on the internet, that can definitely have a problem with that as well. Shesk is here. We haven't had Shesk in the live stream for quite a while, and he is back here again. Hello, good evening, friends. Rich is actually not here today, but Shesk is here, so great to have you with us. Great to have everybody else here with us as well. Shesk, can you do me a favor and click on the link in the description for the website, and let me know if that link works for you. It is not working for T. Lazazi. I think I've been mispronouncing your name this entire time. I really apologize. But just let me know. Anybody else who can't connect to the website, let me know, because that could be a big problem. But I haven't really seen that from anybody else, so I'm not sure whether that's something on your end or not. I know I have had some students from China and some other places where their government puts restrictions and they can't access the website quite right. T. Alzazi is smiling. Maybe, let's see. Okay, the link to your website works great in Chrome at least. Okay. Link works for me in the UK. Okay, great. Thanks for testing that out for me. So if just let me know what's going on with you, T. Alazazi, and I will just let me know, maybe what you're trying to access the website with, and I'll try to help you out. Okay, any other questions about what we talked about tonight? So to catch real Shesk up, we were talking about fingering today, as you can tell from the title of the video, and basically what patterns can come up in music and where to use fingering for those patterns. So anybody have any questions about either what we talked about tonight, or it can be something random as well? I guess I'll walk you through what our plans are for the next few weeks. I actually need to look at this because I know what we were doing today. So if you ever go to my website and click on the community tab, this is a free part of the website, by the way. You scroll down and you can see what we have. Okay. Let me bring you to this page that I am looking at. Okay, so tonight was supposed to be piano finger exercises part 2. This was actually what I did was I made this a guide on fingering. Last week's episode, last week's lesson was actually an exercise I gave you to help with your scale fingering. I highly recommend you check that out. I released it a few days on the channel. It looks like we have the week off next week, the 24th and the 26th. And then we're going to meet back again on Friday the 31st. It says, watch me teach a piano lesson. I'm actually going to change that because that's actually with another student I'm doing. And we decided not to broadcast a lesson that day. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so and then a special one coming up is polyrhythm on the 14th, duplet and triplet. So I do need to update the calendar a little bit. I do have a lot of ideas on the lessons I do want to put out. Some of them are based on some of Rich's suggestions, so you will see a couple of those in there. Okay, let me take us back to where we were. So Shesk was saying that he missed us, We missed you too, Shesk. And let's see here. We've actually been having a lot of fun. A lot of new people and returning people to the live stream, which is really exciting. I especially think so. It's really cool. Okay, let's take a look here. What do you think? Oh, I can look at the thing from my tablet. It makes it a lot easier. They were from Etsy.com. What do you think about these piano key stickers? I don't see the link. They were from Etsy.com. Do you mean like, are they labels for your piano keys? If so, you can use this for maybe the first week or two of your piano practice, but after that, I recommend you take them off your piano because you really should be, actually learning where the notes are. I actually don't think it will let you send me a link in the chat. I think only I'm allowed to put links, and all I have to say is thank goodness, because people would probably be putting really crazy links to things I probably don't want to see. Yes, for beginners. So yeah, you can use them. I would say up to the first month, but I would try not to use them at all, to tell you the truth, because I feel like they're a crutch. If you're having a lot of trouble finding out where the notes are and remembering where they are, I guess you could do it for a little while, for a few weeks. But I recommend generally staying away from that. I consider that cheating. That's like using the soft pedal when you have to play pianissimo. All of my teachers have told me that is cheating. Sandra says, hello, your channel is very helpful. And then, thank you, Sandra. I'm glad that my channel could be helpful to you. And then we have Alazazi's back again. Does synesthesia help to be better? No. What synesthesia is good for, actually, I use synesthesia as part of my lesson tutorial. So the part with the light up keys, let me see if I can bring it up here. So this part with the light up keys here in the middle, that is actually synesthesia running in the background. And I just clipped part of it and overlaid it on top of the video. So that's a little inside look on how I do things. But what synesthesia is good for is learning maybe one song. So if you're not interested in learning piano long term, then synesthesia is okay. Maybe you want to learn the theme to Super Mario Brothers or something like that, or whatever it is. I forget how to play it. It's been so long. But say you wanted to learn that piece, well, then I guess it would be okay. But if you're really interested in learning songs and you want to learn songs easily, if you know how to read sheet music and you're proficient at sight reading, you can learn a piece way faster than you could on synesthesia. And synesthesia doesn't teach you all the technique and everything behind playing the piano. So there's a huge gap there. It's not really teaching you how to play the piano. It's more just kind of showing you maybe how to play one song, following the light up keys and learning the muscle memory from there. Okay, let's see. I've been using an iPad app to learn the notes. Oh, what iPad app are you using? I know Rich had a useful one. I forget exactly what he said it was, though. Okay, and then I have a question for anybody here right now. What kind of lessons would you like to see in the next couple of months here on the channel? Since, like I said, I'm right now coming up with the calendar for the next couple of months. I have an idea on the lessons I want to do already, but they are not set in stone. So if you want to give a suggestion, I would love to hear them. And actually, a lot of my best lessons I've gotten from suggestions from the community, which we have a very good community here. It's really awesome. Really love to see people helping each other out in the comments and, just sharing their stories and everything. It's really, really something. It really makes the channel a whole lot more enjoyable. And that's not something that started going on until really after we started the live streams last year. So good on YouTube for making the live streams a thing. Flash Note Derby says the real Winslet Lit fan. So check out Flash Note Derby on iOS and see if it can help you learn to read some notes. I have a lot of lessons on reading notes, by the way. Let me show you. Whoops. Okay, so if you go to YouTube, type in lessons on the web. You may be subscribed already. And you go to playlists. And there's a ton of videos learning, like note reading, as you can see here. Learn and improve your note reading up here. These are the newer videos I have on note reading. Very helpful. I have one coming out on Sunday. That's one about reading ledger lines. I highly recommend you check that out. I also have some other ones, lessons on two-handed piano playing. So I really highly suggest you check out the playlist there. If you're a beginner piano player, you're looking for a free way to learn the very basics of learning music, I recommend you check out the section where it says your piano journey starts here. And you want to start with the beginners start here playlist. So I think that's pretty straightforward. So I highly recommend you check out the playlist. People, I feel, often forget about the playlist, and they are a great tool to learn even more. Chord melody song like I do on guitar. Let's see. Yes, so if you can learn a melody on synesthesia pretty easily. Oh wait, you're not talking about synesthesia. That was somebody else. Okay, chord melody song like I do on guitar. Okay. Do you have a question around that? I'm a little confused. I get confused easily, so take it easy on me. Okay, Sandra says, your channel has helped me play a song that I found very hard, and in my opinion, I love this piano teaching channel. Thank you so much. You're very welcome, Sandra. So I believe you're new here. At least it's the first time I remember seeing your name in the chat. So you're always welcome to come back out to our live streams anytime. You're also welcome to leave a comment and browse through, as many of the lessons as you want to. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments of that video you're watching, and I'll do my best to get back to them. Like I said, my community is also pretty good at getting back to some of the comments and questions as well. But I try to get to as many of the questions as I can. So you have a fairly good chance of me answering it if you leave me a comment there. So you're always welcome to be a part of our channel. So I'm glad to have you aboard and glad to be of help to you. Oh, Winslet fan says, oops, I have to go. Thanks for the stream. Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming by. You're always welcome back. Again, Winslet fan. Glad to have you with us today. Fuddy Duddy says, well, on piano, you can play chords and melody at the same time, but it's harder on guitar. Yes, very true. We run a chords and then notes, another chord, so it is different, I guess. Yes, very true. So that's a very good statement that, on piano, you can play chords on the bottom, melody up top. On guitar, that's a lot harder because you can play far less notes at one time. You can you can knock out some chords, but to play a melody on top with a different rhythm is very difficult on guitar. That's very true. So I'm going to take this time to thank everybody for coming out today and, of course, watching this lesson. Highly recommend you check out some of the other lessons on the website. Once I post the recording to this video, I'll put some annotations around for you to click around to find some of those great videos. And also, always check out the description of the video because there's a lot of goodies in there as well. So this has been Tim from Lessons on the Web. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel and watching this lesson, and I'll talk to you in the next lesson. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, I'm not going anywhere quite yet, but I do want to do that outro so I can kind of piece it together for the video. Let's see. Avi says, may I come in, sir? Yes. Into my house? No, you may not come into my house, but you may come into the live stream. Yes. You are late, unfortunately, Avi. We are in the last 10 minutes or so of the live stream. If you, I'll kind of introduce you to what we were doing tonight. So we're talking about fingering, and specifically, you can obviously watch the recording once I put it up. But we're talking about specifically the fingering for different passages in music. So scale patterns, arpeggio patterns, chords, trills, and different things that appear in music that you will need some guidance on how to do the fingering for. So that's what we were talking about. Avi was sleeping. Well, I guess that's okay. You need your sleep for there. But that's okay. Yes, you may come in and be a part of our live stream in the last few minutes. So if there's any questions you have, Avi, about either fingering or anything else, and then of course you can leave a comment later on one of the videos if you want. please let me know. And if there's any kind of video that you'd still like to see on the channel, please let me know that as well, because that's always good to know. T. Alazi says, thanks a lot. You're very welcome. And Avi, I'm glad you're here and that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. I don't know what that was about still. YouTube claims that there's not an unsubscribe glitch, but I think a lot of people have proven that there are. Fuddy Duddy asks, do many songs on sheet music give the fingerings? Yes, many of them do. A lot of the times they won't give you every fingering for every note. So sometimes you have to kind of rely on your knowledge of scales and arpeggios and things like that. A lot of times with tricky scale fingering, they'll at least give you a few of the fingers to get you going, but some it depends on the editor of the song. So if the editor didn't want to put any fingers in, sometimes you'll find a version of the song with no fingers in at all. So if you need fingerings, then you can always find a version of the song that has more of them written in, but generally not all of them will be written in. Only some of them will be written in there for you. But great question. Okay, any other questions before we go here? If not, we'll end it here. But any last minute comments or questions? I just want to say thanks for coming out, and you're always welcome to come back, all of you. It was a great discussion here. Can I play Tramieri? I'm guessing that. I'm actually not familiar with that. So I'm guessing the answer is no, because I've never seen that before. Oh, we're getting some questions here. Do you have any favorite publishers for sheet music or booklets? Yes, I have. I really like Alfred Publishing Company. Alfred makes a lot of good piano books that you can find. I always recommend. So I recommend starting out with book one, but anything from Alfred Publishing, I find that they're generally pretty good. They don't they do publish actually a lot of pieces as well. So I think you can get Beethoven sonatas and things that were published by Alfred, and generally they do a very good and clean job with their transcriptions and things. Okay. What's my favorite piece? My favorite piece, Ave Maria is a very, very beautiful piece that I really like. And I'd heard it years ago, but recently I was listening to it again, and I really, really like that one. So for this week, my favorite piece is Ave Maria. Check it out. Barbara said, fingering for hymns. Now, hymns have a lot of chords with notes moving up top. So you have to be able to have enough fingers for the chords and also play the melody on top. I could make a lesson on fingering for hymns all on its own. So fingering, let me see if I can find a hymn really quick. Find maybe an example, although free sheet music is getting harder and harder to find. Now, it depends on how the hymn is written, because some hymns are written like normal songs, in which case you really just want to use a lot of the tips I gave you in today's lesson, concerning like if it has an arpeggio in it, a scale in it, use that fingering. A lot of hymns, like this one, I Sing the Mighty Power of God, are split up between basically stabs of text. Oops. Okay, so this is tricky, but in general, I mean, the fingering changes a lot in hymns, so that is tricky. So in general, so say we have the, oh, let me bring it down here a little bit. So say we have the last beat in the first full measure where it says, I sing the mighty, and actually it's the E on mighty, where you have this chord here, this G minor chord with an E there. So the important thing to keep in mind with hymnals is that you want to be able to have enough fingers to play the chord you're playing, but also any notes that are moving either on the inside of the chord, which in this case we're moving from D to E. So we use finger 2 there. That gives us more fingers to work with in the middle there. And then you want to, same kind of thing, on the next measure, you have an F major chord. You want to be able to have enough fingers to play that F major chord using what we talked about today. And you want to be able to play the notes moving around the chords. It's going to take a lot of time. Like I said, I can make a lesson all on its own about hymnals, but basically what you want to get out of this is that you want to use your chord fingering where it applies, but you also want to make sure you have enough fingers to play any of the moving notes. So it's a lot of chords and notes moving around them. Okay, Sanfan is back here again. How you doing, Sanfan? Glad to have you with us here. Okay, Ave Maria is such a beautiful piece. I really agree, Shesk. Okay, and it looks like that's all we had came in. So, Sanfan, we are about to adjourn for today, but that's all right. So basically what we talked about today was fingering for certain types of patterns that you can find in music. You know, we talked about scales, arpeggios, we talked about chords and everything like that and where to use those. All right, any other questions before we go here? If not, we're going to end it here. I would just want to, say, thanks for coming out tonight. Thanks for, sharing with us in the comments. If you just sat back and relaxed and watched the lesson, thanks for doing that as well. All of it really helps our community here. And, I'm really happy to be able to help you learn piano and music from far, far away. It's really cool being able to run this YouTube channel. I know I say this almost every time I do a stream, but it's just so cool, especially to do it live. Has been a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. Sunfan says, I would like to ask many classic piece. I have one question. Okay. Any ending song by Avi? Maybe I could do For Release. So Isanfan is asking their question. Okay, let's see. I like to ask pop song are more of using chord, right? Yes. So pop songs have a lot of chords. A lot of times what pop songs will have is what's called, not figured bass. What is it? Figured bass is something like they would have. What is that called? Oh man, oh man. Chord. I can't. Why don't I play Ave Maria? Actually, because I don't know it yet. I've actually never played it. I have listened to it many times. I was playing it for a student in their copy the other day, but I don't have one with me. Okay, I want to ask, are there certain finger when are playing chords? So great question. So we have EDM. Bodacious is here. Hey, hello, Bodacious, back again. So certain fingering. So if you check back to the recording of the lesson we had tonight, I gave you the fingerings for all the chords. If they're stacked evenly repositioned chords, you're going to have, 5, 3, 1, 1, 3, 5 with your right hand. So check those out. The recording, go back on the recording and check those out. But you are right that pop songs use a lot of chords with them. Maybe not so much more so than Bach or something like that, but Bach uses a lot more activity with the chords, so they're harder to pick out. Pop songs is a lot of just chords and the left hand melody in the right hand. You're very welcome, Bodacious. Let's see here. Oh, not figured bass. What is that? The name of the thing? It's jazz chords. Like you have jazz chords. I can't believe I can't. I am a little tired today, so that's what I'm going to blame it on. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well, feeling at least content on a day-to-day basis. Yes, I'm doing all right, Bodacious, for sure. Not perfect, but doing better than I was. Okay. Lead sheet notation. Lead sheet notation is when you have the chords written up top, or the melody written on top, and you have chords on the bottom. Sunfan says, so there's a song I would like to play, but I only found chord. How do I know which other note for the melody? The song is All in My Head by Tori Kelly. So you'd either have to listen back on the song and find the melody yourself, or you'd have to find the melody written down somewhere else and try to piece it together with the chords. But it depends on what else you're looking at. So I'll tell you what, Sanfan, if you contact me on Facebook, so you go to facebook.com/lessons on the web, and there you can private message me on the Facebook fan page, basically. And basically ask me this question again. Send me, if you can, a copy of the chords that you have, and then send me, if you can find a melody to it, send me that, and then I can provide you a little bit more detail on that. So it's a little bit more complicated of a question than I can answer, without looking into it in more detail. And since we're ending here in a couple minutes, that's a better option. So if you have Facebook, that's great. Or you can email me, tim@lessonsontheweb.com. And I'd be more than happy to answer your question there as well. Bodacious, was able to find out all the keys compatible to play on all the 12 keys? Not yet. Not yet, Bodacious. I've been very busy getting back into the swing of things on the channel here. So I have not had a chance to do that one yet. All right, everybody. I'm running out of steam here pretty quick. I slept a little bit more last night. And we're getting here to the end of the hour. So thanks for joining us today. I think it was a great lesson on fingering. If you have any questions about fingering, leave them in the comments once I post the recording of this video, and I would love to hear them. So thanks, everybody, for a great live stream. And I'll talk to you. We're off. No, I'll talk to you on Sunday. So I still will see you one more time this week since it's only Friday. So I'll see you on Sunday. And then after that, we'll take the week off and meet, a week after that. So very welcome, Sanfan. Like I say, feel free to contact me through email and send me some more info. Bodacious, thanks for coming. Sias, if I'm pronouncing that right, thanks for coming. Avi, always welcome back again. Let's see here. My favorite. And then let's see, Sanfan, the real Shesk, thanks for coming out once again. Glad to have you with us again, friend. So Shesk was a regular for a long time. He got busy for a while, but he pops in every now and again, which is always very nice. Barbara, fingering. Okay, she's asking about fingering for hymns. Thanks for coming out. Fuddy Duddy, a lot of great questions from you. Thanks for joining us today. TL Azazi, thanks for coming. We got Real Wizlet, who had to leave early, but thanks for great coming and asking great questions. We have your channel, Sandra. Thanks you for coming with us today, or joining with us today. And I think I got almost everybody. I apologize. Hopak Trim was in earlier. Thanks for coming out. Painting Buddha. I love puns. You're very welcome there. I love puns. Potato Senpai. I love your name. And thank you for joining us in today's live stream. Okay, let's see. Real Chef says, good night, Tim. I left you a message on your Facebook explaining why I wasn't here. Thanks and good seeing you again. Okay, well you don't have to explain it, but I will read that from you, Shesk. Thanks for sending that over, and you're always welcome to come back anytime. I understand if things come up and you're busy, certainly understandable, but like I said, you're always welcome back, no matter how crazy things get. Bodacious says, I started thinking, is the C scale all the keys only fit for C only? Yes. You're on the right track with that. I mean, you can have some of the black keys fit in different scales, but C in the C scale is from C to C, and none of the white keys in between there. All right, so good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out, and I'll check you out for the next lesson. Leave a thumbs up if you thought this was a good lesson. It lets other people know that's a good lesson as well. So this has been Tim from Lessons on the Web. Thank you for joining us in our classroom, and I'll see you again in the classroom on Sunday. Bodacious sent me a flower. Thank you, Bodacious.